Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, welcome to yet another episode of the Ugandan podcast. My name is Brandy Azeirwe Valentine, Communication Officer for the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, who have brought you this amazing broadcast. Or should I say production, really. And today we are going to be discussing an amazing topic. It's business digitization. And to discuss that with us is none other than Rowena Turinawe, Head of ICT Advisory, Strategy and Research for the Centenary Technology Services. As you hear that title, it's heavy and long because the work she does is magnificent. So, Rowena, you are welcome to the Ugandan podcast.
Thank you, Brandy.
Have you seen that intro?
Yeah.
It's bankable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us more about yourself. Besides being an ICT guru and more, who is Rowena Turinawe?
Okay, so like you've said, my name is Rowena
Yes.
Turinawe. I am a Muchiga from Rukunjiri,
Okay.
proudly.
Yeah.
I am a mother.
Yes.
I am a tech enthusiast. I always wanted to be a lawyer. I was always those smart kids that talked non-stop, but somehow I'm in tech and I love it.
Yeah.
I am a Christian, so I try to remain grounded in everything I do. I try to center my life around, Christian values. Yes, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. And you said you're Muchiga, actually.
Yeah.
So, Twakwachira. Yeah. So, if let's get into this discussion today. As you know, on the Ugandan podcast, we discuss everything that makes a Ugandan better and stuff happening in our country and by our country people. And one, I know you have worked with MTN. I also know you've worked with NITAU, National IT Authority, Uganda, and also now you're working with Centenary. And I could go on, but what has your journey been like?
My journey has been challenging, to say the least. As like I said earlier, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I never liked mathematics, so the scientific things. I talked a lot. I used to think I was so clever. I liked arguing.
But you're very clever.
When I was younger, of course,
Yeah.
I had that idea that lawyers were that either you're a lawyer or you're a doctor, and so I wanted to be in that field. But somehow I got into university, and I got ICT on a government scholarship. And when you're young, my motivation was allowance. So I was like, you know what, I am doing IT, and then I got into the path of IT. So I started my journey with Rock Telecom.
Yeah.
I used to, IT is a very male-dominated sector.
True.
So when I got into Rock Telecom, I was a NOC engineer. I used to splice fiber. Splicing
NOC? What is NOC?
Network Operational Center. So these are the people who watch the internet, connect customers. We see if your internet is down. I was a technical person.
Okay.
I used to climb fiber poles, wear these heavy boots. It was very hectic.
Yeah.
I used to work in the night, so I would miss family events, work late, spend half my shift asleep. It was hectic.
Yeah.
But I then graduated from Rock Telecom, I went to Mantrak. So Mantrak is another sort of engineering-based, a male-dominated job where I was doing IT support. Yeah. So from climbing the fiber cables and the poles, I moved into, people go under the desk and connect cables, switch on, switch off, take power on, power off. It was really male-dominated. So I went into Mantrak. I moved from going under people's desks to connect their computers to becoming an assistant manager, and then I moved to MTN. Yeah. When I moved to MTN, by then I had gotten a bit of experience, and I had continued to do certifications, enhance my knowledge, enhance my expertise, and so I was in charge of service delivery for 5 countries. So I got there, and it was IT shared services, and here we are managing service delivery for Swaziland, Rwanda, Zambia, South Sudan. It was a lot. And needless to say, I'm still young, but I was fairly young then.
Okay.
So I had to literally grow up and realize that, this is not just about me being a girl in a male-dominated sector. I have to grow up. So I went into MTN. I managed those 5 countries, service delivery. Just to bring it into context, I was managing things like internet, MTN internet. Your data is off. Mobile money. So if mobile money was down, my neck was on the line. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I moved into NITA.
Yeah.
NITA, I think was...
I like how you say NITA with a smile.
No, because I was there for 6 years. I was there for quite a bit of time. Yeah. And I learned a lot from... NITA is a government entity, and government has a way, I think of just showing you another side of reality. So I transitioned from private sector for the longest time and moved into a government entity.
Yes.
And I was responsible there for transforming business. So I get into NITA, and there's maybe 47 systems across government. My job was business transformation.
Yeah.
How do you grow the systems? How do you improve the services? How do you improve the process? An example of one of the things that we were struggling with was immigration. They had a process for applying for a passport which had 42 steps. My job was to make sure that from 42, the citizen has minimal steps in which they can apply for a passport. So I immediately shifted my mindset from going under desks, climbing poles, connecting internet, fixing, technical issues to thinking, what does a business need? How do we make it work? How do we improve the process? Why does IT matter to a normal person? So at NITA, I had a lot of room to grow my thinking outside technology, but more into what value does it add? When I was growing up, we knew that IT was computers, equipment, hardware. It's irrelevant now. Anybody can do that. What we need to look at now,
because of the cloud and stuff. That's true.
The value is, what are you doing? How are you improving business? So my journey has been challenging, not because it was hard, but because I was always thrown into a space that was different. Now from government and business processes, now I move into, you've said my title, Centenary. Now this is back into the private sector.
Yeah.
It's now more about a strategy. How do we strategize, not just for the private sector, but Centenary is at the heart of the rural poor. The poor, how do we bring government into the fold? So it's another space where I just have to think outside the box, reinvent myself, move into research and other things. So I think my journey has been challenging, but very rewarding. Very rewarding, especially because business transformation is no longer a nice to have. It's necessary.
It's a necessity. Bare necessity.
Yeah. Challenging but rewarding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as an ICT advisory, strategy and research person, which innovations have made it possible for the ICT industry to thrive generally?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that you touched on earlier, of course, was cloud.
Yeah.
Traditionally, of course, the biggest operational costs or capex, initial cost of any business, we have to buy servers, we have to buy storage, we need to buy equipment. Do we get a data center? You're looking at the harder things.
Skilled labor to manage this expensive stuff.
Then even operational, keeping the lights on, the AC. It's very heavy on cost and a bit low on value. So one of the things I believe in ICT that's fundamentally transformed, or one of the introductions in ICT, is cloud services.
Yeah.
Software as a service. Is people who've made the initial investment, like what Raxio is doing or what other companies are doing. They put the money in and then they give you a service as a service.
Yes.
I think that is one of the things that has saved businesses, reduced costs, made it easy for people to do ICT. Another thing I believe in terms of, I wouldn't call them innovations, but in terms of things that have been introduced that have helped propel ICT, especially within government and public sector. Shared services. Initially, people would build different, payment gateway systems. You have 1 million service providers, SMSs, you have 30 providers. Everybody is sort of trying to do what everybody is already doing. But with the idea of shared services, you have these platforms or these integration platforms which everybody can just plug in and get as a service. So instead of me spending that money, I can easily, pay for a service that will make my cost of doing business cheaper, but also make my service to a citizen or to a customer or to another country much, much easier.
When you talk about shared services, which ones are you talking about?
When I talk about shared service, I mean things like SMSs, payment services,
visas, and
hosting. Then even if you look at things like, for example, URA. If you imagine a world where government said, okay, URA is going to collect money.
URA, Uganda Revenue Authority.
Uganda Revenue Authority. But everybody else can have their own little payment process, payment aggregator, payment service. Imagine the nightmare we had. Imagine the nightmare we would have had.
It sounds like so much would be going on.
So much would be going on. Yeah. And the service wouldn't be as seamless. But now we have a shared service where we say if we're paying for any service, we can go say to URA. Yeah. Everybody will use the same channel. Whatever bank you own, you can pay for a service. It makes it easier for anybody to adopt a service.
Yes.
Yeah.
CIO Africa listed you as a top. I want to even read it properly. As one of the 35 most influential women in technology. What does this mean? What does this signify for you and the women in the field and your journey that you have shared? 35 most influential women in technology.
In Africa, please.
Okay. Just like that. Very soon you'll make it to the world, but yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, like I said, as a girl from Rukunjiri, to be recognized at a continental level, I think is a huge achievement.
True.
Not just for me, but for what I represent, for who I represent, for a person who I studied from Makerere. I didn't go to, I eventually advanced, but my initial degree was here at home. I was raised and groomed by teachers here at home. My experience, like I said, where I started working was here at home. And for me to be recognized at a continental level, for me, just it gives me a ray of hope that regardless of where you're from or where you start, how you excel and how you do your work and how well you do your work will speak for you. It wasn't, CIO Africa is not something you apply for. It's not something you say, please vote me. No, it's the eyes. I'm being honest. It's the eyes and people who see your work and who see the value that you add and who see what you bring to the table in your industry that actually propel you. So for me to have that recognition, first of all, was very humbling, but also was encouraging that other girls, other women, other people in, not even just women, other men might be in a female-dominated sector. Whatever sector you're in that is not tended or inclined towards your gender, you can still thrive and excel as long as you do your best, you give it your all, and you add value. This is why I like business transformation. It's all about value. So I think for me, it's just encouraging that anybody can reach and can get there if they excel and add value in whatever field they are in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very brilliant. I'm also now feeling inspired.
You can do it.
Yeah. Because anyway, let's move on. This year, Centetech. I won't call it Centetech because Centenary Technology Services.
It's a mouthful.
Yes. So Centetech signed, has a partnership with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. What are the 3 priorities of this partnership?
Okay. So just to give you a background, the reason why Centetech was very interested in having a relationship, we keep calling it a marriage with the ministry, is because...
You're in bed with the ministry.
We are in bed.
If Professor Bazayo had you...
I hope he hears me, actually.
Yes.
So the reason that we were very interested in the ministry is because Centenary as a group, because Centenary Technology Services is a subsidiary of the group.
Yes.
And what is at the heart of Centenary are the rural poor. True. Providing financial services, ensuring that even my great-grandmother in the middle of I don't know where can access finance, she can access credit, our heart is really on improving the lives of the rural poor. The Ministry of ICT also is government. And the heart of government is the poor. The people, not only the poor, but the people. Your heart is really
a combination of the people, the poor, the rich, the middle, I don't know about the rich.
Anyway, so ideally, our interest was because we have common things that bring us together, and our interest is how do we use ICT to propel? How do we use ICT to improve the lives of people? How do we add value? How do we make business cheaper? So already we had a meeting of minds in terms of what is the heart of what we are doing, why we're doing what we are doing. So when we got together, the 3 key pillars of our relationship is 1, job creation, because I know the ministry is at the heart of business process outsourcing, which is a core function of getting all these people who are unemployed into getting employment. So 1, it's BPO. How do we collaborate? Because Centenary has access to market.
Yes.
Centenary Bank, I hope you know, is the number 1 bank in terms of customer base.
Yes, madam.
Centenary Group now has the widest expanse. We have over 3,300 schools, 640 parishes, 200 institutions, 46, Centenary Group is everywhere. Yes. So we have demand in terms of who can consume the service, and the Ministry of ICT has a need in terms of where do we push the services, how do we help the citizens. So that was a converging point. So 1, job creation. 2, how do we push the use of ICT services? And
across
3,
the country.
Yeah, across the country and to the people, because it's all about the people after all. And then thirdly, our 3rd conjoining point is how do we enhance each other? Private sector has the expertise. Private sector has access to funding. Private sector has opportunity that government might not have. Government has access to environments, to policy, to things that we might not have. So the synergy is how do we then marry what we have as Centenary and what the ministry has and make sure that we propel ICT for the socio-economic advancement of the country.
President Joey Museveni would be so proud of you when you start social-economic development.
I'm speaking his language.
Yeah, speaking his language. And also that would explain I know this is a journey that you started a long time ago because you were also profiled by New Vision as top 40, under 40.
I think they meant under 30, but it's okay. We can go with 40.
Okay. Top 40, under 30, under 40. You were also profiled as one of the women who were in fact, it wasn't even women this time. It was people who are causing transformation in ICT. But also my question here is, why should someone care
about ICT?
Yeah, like why should I care? I know I can care. I should care about health because COVID, my goodness, and Ebola and what. I know I should care about, but what transport because potholes are not good, not good for anyone's health. But why should we care about ICT? Why should someone invest in the ICT industry?
Okay, I think first and foremost, why anyone should care about ICT is it brings about efficiency. You know, when you think about ICT outside transformation, which is what I began with, you will just look at it as equipment, as infrastructure, as electric poles and internet. But if you think about the benefit of ICT, you realize that ICT actually transforms everything you do. It makes it efficient. Think about the process to renew a permit. The process, for example, if you lose your number plates, like I did yesterday, how quickly, no comment, Brandy, how quickly can I have that replaced? If you think about if I want pizza or food delivered to my doorstep, or if it makes everything efficient, it makes it faster and easier. How is that? Because you have solutions. You have a digital app, you're able to afford a data bundle, you're able to have a phone. ICT literally drives the ease of your life. And if we're being frank, over 70% of the population are youth. People want things now. They want things fast and they want them easy. There's no point in me having a service if it's going to be long. So you should care about ICT, especially as a young person, because it will make your life easier. Yeah. The second point is ICT. You know, it's very easy for you, for the youth now, I think, that already have jobs to forget that there's so many unemployed. But from a standpoint
that's a point of privilege.
Yeah, and it happens to many people I meet don't understand. Job creation, that's something that, you know, politicians say and the president says that it's a fact. We have thousands of people leaving university with no jobs. In the context now of the government, we are focusing on business process outsourcing. Uganda has very many young, intelligent people. We have a good command of English. Our cost of labor is fairly affordable. The cost of living is low. We are ripe, ready, fertile ground for business process outsourcing. But without ICT, we have no connection with the world. We're not able to match with the Chinas and the Philippines and the Indonesias. We are stunted. So if you should think about ICT, think about the thousands of people that don't have jobs now. And very soon you'll have your own children. And they'll also look for jobs. You see, it's a gift that keeps on giving. So for people to understand that ICT is an enabler for us to create job opportunities is something that should cause everybody to say, you know what, let's invest in ICT, be the forefront at tech, so that other countries can come and pay attention and get people what? Get people jobs. Also, just my last point, I feel like I'm over-ranting. Why also I think...
No, you are educating the masses.
Also, why I think people should invest in ICT is transparency. You know, you check Twitter and you check Facebook and you check all these social media apps and people are complaining, our taxes, the government, potholes. There's all kinds of disgruntlement and all kinds of comments, most times misinformed, most times ignorance, most times frustration. It's a cocktail.
Marcella calls them fake news.
Fake news. It's a cocktail of problems, but if we embrace ICT in all fronts of service delivery, there'll be transparency. One, there'll be transparency because you have access to see what is going on. Where has this item reached? What is the process with this? Where have my taxes reached? How do I pay? I'm not paying somebody across the counter. I'm paying digitally, so I have access to see what's happening. But also the beauty of ICT from somebody who might be saying, oh my God, my taxes, is it reduces the cost of doing business. It's true.
Yeah, so if the cost of doing business is low, that means I'm making more money, saving more.
Yes, it works for you. So it's something that everybody should pay attention to, but from understanding not the cost that goes into buying ICT, but the value. And the transformation.
Wow. I now care about ICT more than
you should.
I do.
You should.
Yeah, but now I care more.
Yeah.
The troubles of this world, they don't come to an end. But so that means they come with stress. And how do you cope with stress? Because there's so many young people out there who are stressed over different things. 3 ways one should cope with stress.
One, I pray.
Yeah.
I pray. I pray. You know, some things can just be too much and you're like, you know what, let me just give this thing to God. And, So I go to prayer. Sometimes when I'm a bit overwhelmed, really overwhelmed, I delegate. I just say, you know what? And I really delegate. I don't delegate and then I keep peeping. No, I delegate. I trust you. I trust that you're empowered and I leave it to my teams. And it helps reduce the stress. The third way I de-stress, I have a mentor. I have a couple of mentors who've gone before me and have shown me such amazing examples of how to lead, how to lead teams, how to have, work-life balance and well-rounded lives. So I normally go to them, I talk to them, they give me guidance, they give me wisdom, or sometimes I just watch. There's this wisdom in observation and in beholding. I just watch them and I just learn how to, distress. Those are my 3 top ways of distressing.
With rest, and also that would explain why you have been so efficient over time. It's like, how? Is Madame a machine? So I wanted to really ask this question and clarify. So we're going for the quick fire session. Are you ready?
Yes.
Question number 1. What's your favorite food?
Seafood.
Yes. I don't even understand why.
Seafood.
There's nothing as basic on my tongue as seafood.
Auntie, I think because you grew up in a landlocked country. Some of us are well-traveled, so...
Rowena, you're going to eat your seafood alone? I'll keep eating chicken. We are done. Okay, second, what's your favorite season?
The rainy season.
The rainy season.
Yeah, because when it rains, it's a show of us a new beginning.
Yeah.
It's just reminding you that, I don't know, it's get into bed, think about something good.
Yeah.
The ground is going to bring food. It gives me a hope of a new promise. I like rain. I think I like rain. A rainy season.
Clearly the singles out there can't relate.
No. No, I like the rainy season.
Yeah, there's that meme on the internet that it's the rainy season, but I'm here to only remind you that Pampers are more expensive than a cup of tea. Yes, okay, the next one. Name a 4-letter word that starts with letter B.
Book. Bold. Bond. I was going to say boob. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, yeah, okay. Bend. Yeah, that's
Bend.
true.
Yeah.
One subject you'd like to learn more about?
God.
Oh.
God. And I think it's a bit selfish why I want to learn more about God. The Bible says the more you read the word of God, the more you'll have good success. So I want to be successful. That's my motivation.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, fine. Which word do you have a hard time pronouncing?
I think as a person from Rukunjiri.
Anything with an R.
Parallelogram.
Yeah, okay.
Have I said it right?
You can't have said it right because you have a hard time pronouncing it anyway.
That's the word.
Okay, we'll come to the end of the quick fire session. Now we go back to slow motion.
Okay.
What makes you Ugandan?
What makes me Ugandan?
Because Uganda is making 60 in 2022. Yeah. So it's a good thing for us to celebrate what makes us Ugandan. What makes you Ugandan?
I think my culture, Uganda has a vibe. It's a vibe. Ugandans have a way they like people. They're friendly. They like to party, to meet, to eat together, to drink together. It's like a community sort of thing. I think that's really Ugandan. Yeah. That you don't find everywhere that you go. Yeah. And I think I'm also like that. I like being in spaces where there's a vibe, we're together, we're laughing.
Jagala vibe.
I think that's one that makes me really Ugandan, but also our music is kind of dope. Our music is really, really nice.
It's really dope. Yeah, that's true. Is.
And I really vibe with Ugandan music.
Yeah. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song, the guy died. Remember, how were you born when a man called Radio was alive?
Rowena, how old do you think I am? I'm actually offended. On that note, I liked all his music, all of it.
I wasn't sure that you knew him.
Okay.
Yeah. But I liked a lot of Radio's music, Radio and Weasel.
Yeah, all of it. Well, we asked you for a favorite song. Don't play us.
Nakudata.
Nakudata. Okay, I don't know the other words, but it's a very good song. Now we are moving to the next question. How can government support the sector and the private sector? Because now you're in the private sector. So how can government support the private sector and the people at large? Okay.
I think, first of all, government in its support, both to private and public, should keep its focus on the people. A government that doesn't look at the people will never add value to the people.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. That in all the things, all the efforts, all the policies, all the reforms, all the taxation, all the procedures, all the investment, the people and making the lives of the people should be at the center of all our efforts. Now, how I think particularly government can work with the private sector to do that, to focus on improving the lives of the citizens and really their livelihoods. I think one would be to complement where private sector is falling short. I had mentioned earlier, government has a foothold in terms of policy, reform, regulation, which private sector does not have. So for us, we might have the funding, we might have access to demand, we might have a drive to move, but legislation, policy, regulation will either propel or stifle us. So the one, first of all, is to help understand where is private sector struggling in those areas and how can government help pave a way in terms of regulatory environment to help private sector move and advance. The other way I think that we can both work together, private and public sector, is to just harness our strengths and weaknesses. Most times it's a competition. If you look, for example, in the previous days, in the previous years, you would see that where government is building infrastructure, private sector is building. Where there was sort of a lack of
it was a competition that was not necessary.
Which wasn't necessary. But mostly I think there was no synergy in terms of alignment of plans and communication, which I think is now no longer an issue. Because you see the digital transformation program, National Planning Authority, the backbone, things are coming together and we are now talking. So the beauty now, I think the way we can work together to help the citizen is to harness where is government thriving, where is private sector thriving, how do we complement each other in terms of investment, where government doesn't have money and we can invest, why don't we do that? Where government has already made a plan, 5-year plan or 3-year plan, and they've put money there, how do we complement where they're not moving? So it's really just a synchrony of one where private sector is lacking and where government can come in with the focus on the citizen.
That's so true. And I actually enjoy the fact that, two things. One, I enjoy that the private sector has now gained momentum and are able to invest in government. Because before it was mostly development partners, someone out of the borders. But to see that we're able to invest in our own, it's really dope. And then when you say government should focus on the citizen, one of your colleagues, Stephen Chirenga, keeps saying, we should start benchmarking on citizen happiness. So it's such a joy. Okay, now, next question. Please note that Rowena is part of the Business Process Outsourcing and Innovation Council. And we are thankful that you're part of it and you're able to put all this knowledge and merge with government and see how we can do it. It's your honor. Now, do you have any words of hope, courage, or love to the people watching you or listening to you on the Ugandan podcast?
I think mine would be encouragement. No matter where life throws you. Like I said, lawyer, now I'm climbing poles and going under desks, but look at me. Eventually, if you stick to something and give it your best, and really give it your best. Anyone who's worked with me knows I don't stand mediocrity. So
her slogan is do better.
No, so my encouragement would be that no matter what it may look like now, where life has thrown you, do your best. And by do your best, exert yourself. Study something, read something, meet the right people, network. Don't just sit there and say, oh my God, I wanted to be this and oh, look at me now. No. Exert yourself because there is a place for you to shine. There is room for you to be at the top. There is room for you to add value. So I would encourage anybody who might feel as though they're not really where they want to be and they're under a desk or climbing a pole or whatever it may be, exert yourself, do your best, always do better. Of course, trust in whichever God you believe, but do better. But there's room for everybody to shine.
True. So Rowena, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have come to the end of this lovely episode of the Ugandan podcast.
Thank you for having me, Brandy Valentine Azeirwe.
I thought when I said we have come to the end, you'd be like crying, sad.
No. My fans are watching.
Let me do better. So, would you want to share your socials? Please not. I'll do this for you.
Thank you.
R5 Turi. Please, only once in a month will you find a post on Instagram. Twitter, at most, she'll do a retweet because she's very important.
I feel like I'm being misrepresented here.
Do better.
I should.
And then you can follow Centenary Technology Services, Centetech on all platforms. And of course, at MICT UG, please feel free to give us your feedback and also any questions and tell us who you'd want us to host any other day, any other time. And I've been your host at Valentine Brandy on Twitter, at Brandy Cool on Instagram. I'm not there on Facebook, but sometimes I am, but no. And we've had this episode and it has been such a joy. For God and our country, we want to say bye.
Bye.